Good evening, everybody. Scott Stevens here with a look at your weather that's kind of going on around the world. I was prepping a satellite image that I'd taken a screen capture of last weekend to kind of illustrate the point of one of the means that they can use to play with the weather. And by play with the weather, I mean the potential to steer storms, to slow them down, to speed them up, to begin to direct them in one direction or another where there maybe weren't necessarily forecast to be. And that's kind of like a big thing in where I've been in weather for the last 15 plus years after realizing early on, well, not terribly early on, but early enough on that I was trying to anticipate the goals of another agenda, another agency, another aspect that wasn't necessarily in alignment with Mother Nature, that we could play with the weather. So I'm going to pop over here and share this graph, and it's really kind of cool. This satellite picture. It goes back to last Saturday evening, and where what I'm interested in is northwestern Kansas. At the time, we had a storm emerging from Colorado, where there were heavy rains along the Front Range, heavy snows in the higher elevations. But what is curious, early on are these ripples, right? You'll begin to see them show up right in through here. Now, typically we've got south winds ahead of the storm. And with strong south winds bringing in heat, humidity, you wouldn't see these ripplings pushing against the south winds. That's just completely contrary to what should typically be happening. So this is the one of the things that I was looking for early on, like say in the mid 2000s, is what tools are they using to play with the forecast? I was looking at contrails, chemtrails. I was looking at odd things in the clouds, that I put up time lapse cameras. And those time lapse cameras were the big reveal to me, is that they had ways of somehow resonating the atmosphere to play with, literally to play with where these storms were headed, where they were going. You slow it up just a little bit when it's still out of the Pacific, or speed it up. Or maybe where you've got a trough like this coming in, you can slow down the south winds like this one to either delay the storm's departure, enhance the rain that's happening, or just weaken it further in time. So it was just kind of something that happened. I saw on Saturday, and I wanted to share with you. All right, let's pop over to Twitter, have a scan around of what has the attention of the weather community right now. And probably the big storm, or the big one over the weekend, outside of what happened stateside, was in Australia, as they were dealing with the remnants of a tropical storm, a typhoon in the Indian Ocean, then merging with, because it's becoming fall down there, a fairly strong cold front. And the two, when they collided, came ashore, and there's about 600 miles of blowing dust, winds, power outages. Could have been some more rain than what you think, but we'd want to see this calm ahead, this part of it come ashore. But typically these storms come from the northwest, not always from the excuse me, from the southwest, and not from the northwest. So a little bit of a difference. And then very chilly temperatures on that northeast coast of Australia, where a few locations ended up with afternoon high temperatures which were 100-year or longer record cool highs. Some by just a tenth of a degree, and we're talking Celsius here, but nevertheless record cold. The signal continues to show up in the medium range models for tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean. So we're going to watch that very, very closely. And it gets all these guys that are into the tropics. They just get all lit up when that happens. And if you've got clear skies out there, we've got the crescent moon showing up. We've had Venus in that western sky for a time, and it is now about ready to plunge in front of the sun, not directly in front of the sun, but nevertheless, as it crosses between us and the sun, it'll be invisible or not visible. If you've got scopes and so forth, a little brave, you might be able to find it as it traverses just above or beneath the disk of the sun. And then it'll be a morning star, a bright, bright, bright morning star for 10 months. Heat anticipated in the end of the Mountain West, where it has been cool for the last couple of weeks, and some of these highs may be upwards of 20 degrees above normal. Some record highs forecast in this area, so we'll watch that coming up. And then Idaho, because the restaurants are not serving the French fries and the baked potatoes and so forth, the farmers have just not had an outlet for their crop, so they just took it to the field and dumped it. They thought it might end up rotting, but all of these spuds were gone literally within the day. So that's kind of good news to see that happen. Miami, a lot of rain in the last couple of weeks. This is the form of what the National Weather Service fills out, the 25th being down here. So they had 2 consecutive days with 3.5 or so inches worth of rain. But more importantly, or what caught this guy's attention, was that the high temperatures below 80 degrees, and that hasn't happened for since 1958, so quite some time. And then it looks like we're about ready to get man back into space, at least from the States. We've had other nations launch men into space, the Russia in particular, but it looks like we're about ready to see Falcon 9 launch, and that would be kind of exciting because I remember the day when Columbia was first launched back in 1980, and space is always kind of a big thing for me. Europe, hot, 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 hot. London back down towards the Iberian Peninsula, cool into the Eastern Europe. And this pattern, because we're seeing such an amplified jet stream in play, is really showing up no matter which continent you are on, with big, big, big highs and then deep lows. And the question is, what is that? Is that a function of global warming, or is it an effect of cooler warming? Hey guys over there, I see you popping in there and giving me the hello. And then it's kind of an interesting story because Michael Moore's film Planet of the Humans was ripped from YouTube. He dared question the global warming motive, that green energy is actually green energy. And I'm a fan of green energy, but I think there's something much, much greater that truly is just around the corner, and that would be limitless energy. In energy forms and technologies that have been sequestered by the national security state for the better part of 100 years, easily since Tesla, if not a bit before that, as we were beginning to discover electrics, DC currents, AC currents, and so forth. So they yanked him. So censorship is alive and well. And no, it's not 1984, but it's COVID 1984 seems to be bringing it about. The heat in the western U.S., cool in the middle part of the nation, still cool in the Rockies, and then that cool weather in the Florida, the southeast, because of all of the showers. We'll look at the satellite imagery as the sun sets across the country. And the National Hurricane Center actually issued an alert across Florida and just off the Bahamas, as they're seeing a little bit of a disturbance that they actually gave it a name, Investigative Area 91L, I believe. And so this is where they're concerned. Florida's gotten a lot of rain lately. They were a bit on the droughty side, but that has certainly turned around over the last couple of days, with Miami picking up the better part of 8+ inches. I haven't seen today's total yet, but it's happening. And the east is wet. The west is hot, south of where the moisture is, but really no severe weather outside of the localized flooding warning. Yes, west of Shreveport, Longview, Texas, and then east of Houston. Boy, say it right, Scott. We've got some of that severe weather. And then this hashed area, I should go to day one because this is today, come tomorrow, the risk of severe weather into the Carolinas, and still a lot of the nation under the risk for some unsettled weather. And that persists back east. And kind of the big thing, and we'll end it with this. I want to end with the QPF, is if we go all the way out to day 7, a lot of rain showing up in the Carolinas and even into the Colorado Rockies. As I lied, let's go one bit more. What I want to see is we talked about the jet stream and going the curve, what they call an omega block, the Greek letter with the clips, and then the arc in the middle looks like a horseshoe. And we have seen that with the shape of the jet stream. We've got the bottom part of the omega, the big ridge, and then the deep trough. And this pattern has been a repeater for the spring thus far. You typically see it in spring and fall, but it has been abnormal this year. And so it looks like some unsettled weather, probably going to bring some good moisture to the Mountain West. And then this is going to be the wild card. The American models generate a nice upper level low. And then once we get to the surface, it really has a very, very wet signature. And because the waters are warming up nicely down there, we are beginning to see this guy down here show up, approach the coast. And at the very least, it's not so tight that it would be tropical in nature, like dangerous tropical, but tropical enough that it would have our attention, and it would have the attention of the guys in Miami at the National Hurricane Center and those folks down along the Gulf Coast that were a little bit dry last week, but are turning much wetter recently. And that's kind of the risk this time of year. You don't want to be complaining about dry weather because it can turn on you in a heartbeat. All right, tomorrow I'll see you at 1:00 Mountain for Smart Perspectives, where I think we'll bring up a little bit of censorship. And is censorship beneficial or harmful? And when when is it okay to say no, that information is too dangerous? Is there really a line that we're willing to say where information is too dangerous? And I just don't know where that line is, and I'm really kind of surprised to see it showing up in a broader part of the society that it is. All right, that's tomorrow, 1 o'clock Mountain, and all